Hana wiped the flour from her hands and looked around her small bakery. The morning rush was over and the shop was quiet now. She had opened this place 6 months ago on Harmony Point, a massive space station where humans and aliens lived together. Most of her customers were human, but sometimes aliens would stop by to look at the colorful pastries through the window. She was cleaning the counter when she heard it. A soft, crying sound came from outside. Hana looked up and saw a small creature sitting on the ground near her shop. The creature was no bigger than a human child, maybe 5 years old. It had blue fur and large eyes that were filled with tears. Its small body shook as it cried. Hana walked outside quickly. She knelt down beside the small creature. "Hey there," she said softly. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The creature looked at her with those big, wet eyes but didn't speak. It just kept crying. Hana looked around for a parent but saw no one nearby. The marketplace was busy with people walking past, but no one seemed to notice the crying child. Then Hana heard a voice calling out. A tall alien rushed toward them. This one was bigger, with the same blue fur and similar features. It must be the parent. The adult alien scooped up the small one and held it close. "I'm so sorry," the alien said in perfect English. "My son wandered off while I was buying supplies. Thank you for staying with him." Hana stood up and smiled. "No problem at all. Is he all right? He seems very upset." The adult alien sighed. Its face showed clear worry. "He's hungry. We've been on this station for 3 days now, and he hasn't eaten properly. Most food here makes our species very sick. We can only eat certain things." Hana felt her heart squeeze with sympathy. She knew how it felt to be hungry in a strange place. When she first came to the station, she had struggled to find good food, too. "What can he eat?" she asked. The alien explained carefully. The Vrelian species, as they were called, could not process most proteins that other species ate. They needed specific combinations of plants and sugars. Most station food was made for humans or the larger alien species. No one made food for small species like the Vrelians. "Wait here," Hana said suddenly. An idea had formed in her mind. "Give me 30 minutes. I think I can make something." The alien parent looked surprised but nodded slowly. Hana rushed back into her bakery. She had always been good at changing recipes. Before opening this shop, she had worked in many different kitchens. She had learned how to adjust ingredients for people with allergies or special diets. She pulled out her data pad and searched for information about Vrelian biology. The station's database had some basic facts. She read quickly, taking notes. They could eat certain grains, some earth vegetables, and simple sugars. No dairy, no eggs, no complex proteins. Hana looked at her ingredients. She had plenty of flour, but she would need to skip the butter and eggs. She grabbed some vegetable oil and a ripe banana. The banana would hold the dough together like eggs did. She added flour, a little sugar, and some salt. Then she remembered the dried fruit she had bought last week. She chopped some dried berries and mixed them in. Her hands worked quickly, mixing and shaping. She made small cookies, each one no bigger than her thumb. She put them in the oven and waited. The sweet smell filled her bakery. 15 minutes later, the cookies were done. They were golden brown and looked perfect. Hana let them cool for a few minutes, then put several cookies in a small paper bag. She walked back outside. The Vrelian parent and child were still there, sitting on a bench. The little one had stopped crying but still looked sad and tired. "Here," Hana said, offering the bag. "I made these special. No eggs, no dairy, only things your son can eat. Let him try one." The adult alien took the bag carefully. It pulled out one cookie and examined it closely. Then it broke off a tiny piece and sniffed it. After a moment, it gave the piece to the child. The little Vrelian took the cookie piece in its small hand. It sniffed it too, then put it in its mouth. Hana held her breath, waiting. The child chewed slowly. Then its eyes went wide. It reached for more, making happy sounds. The adult alien looked shocked. He likes it, it said, its voice full of wonder. He really likes it. These are safe for him? Hana nodded. I checked your species information in the database. I only used ingredients you can process. The sweetness comes from banana and a little sugar. The fruit pieces are dried berries. The child had already eaten 3 cookies and was reaching for more. The parent laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Thank you, it said. You have no idea what this means. He hasn't eaten anything he enjoyed in days. Everything on this station tastes bad to him or makes him sick. Hana felt warmth spread through her chest. This was why she loved baking. Food was not just fuel for the body, it was comfort. It was joy. It was love made visible. Keep the bag, she said. And if you need more, come back any time. I can make them fresh. The alien parent stood up, holding its happy child. How much do I owe you? Hana shook her head. Nothing. It's a gift. Just seeing him smile is enough. The alien looked at her for a long moment. Humans, it said softly. You are strange and wonderful creatures. I will remember this kindness. They left, the child clutching the paper bag like treasure. Hana watched them go, then returned to her bakery. She cleaned up the kitchen and thought about the cookies. Maybe she should make more varieties for different species. The station had dozens of alien races. Surely others had similar problems finding food they could eat. She pulled out her datapad again and started taking notes. This could be something special. This could be something that really helped people. Hana smiled to herself as she wrote down ideas. She didn't know it yet, but that one small bag of cookies was about to change everything. 3 days passed before Hana saw the Vrelian family again. She was arranging fresh bread in the display case when the door chimed. She looked up and smiled. The adult Vrelian from before entered the shop, and the small child was with him. But they were not alone. 2 more Vrelian adults followed them inside. Hello again, Hana said warmly. How are those cookies working out? The first Vrelian stepped forward. His face showed clear happiness. They were perfect. My son ate them all within a day. He keeps asking for more. I told my neighbors about you, and they wanted to meet you themselves. One of the new Vrelians, a female with lighter blue fur, spoke up. Our daughter cannot eat most station food either. We heard you made special cookies that our children can eat safely. Is this true? Hana nodded. Yes, I can make them. Give me a few minutes, and I'll prepare a fresh batch. She went to work immediately. This time she made more cookies, enough for all the Vrelian families. While they baked, she talked with her visitors. They told her about their home planet, a world covered in purple forests and blue oceans. They explained how difficult it was to travel with children when so few places had food their species could eat safely. Most stations only care about big species, one father said sadly. The ones who spend lots of money. Small species like us are forgotten. Hana felt angry hearing this. Everyone deserved good food, no matter their size or how much money they had. When the cookies were ready, she packed them carefully in bags. She charged them very little, just enough to cover the cost of ingredients. The Vrelians left happy, their children already munching on cookies. Hana thought that would be the end of it. But the next morning, 5 more Vrelian families showed up. The morning after that, 3 families from a different species called the Pixen arrived. They had heard about the special cookies from the Vrelians. The Pixen were small too, with green skin and 6 arms. Their children also had trouble finding safe food on the station. Hana checked their dietary needs and created a new recipe just for them. These cookies used different grains and a sweet paste made from roots. Word spread fast on Harmony Point. The station had a busy information network where people shared news and recommendations. Within 2 weeks, Hana's small bakery became famous. Aliens she had never seen before started arriving at her door. They came from all sectors of the station, carrying data pads with information about their species' biology. Hana worked longer hours. She started coming to the bakery before sunrise and left long after sunset. Her hands were always covered in flour. She created new recipes every day, adjusting ingredients to match each species' needs. Some needed high sugar content, others needed no sugar at all, but lots of fiber. Some could only eat foods of certain colors due to how their eyes perceived ripeness. Her friend Mira started visiting more often. Mira worked in the station's medical center as a nurse. She was a short woman with dark hair and quick hands. She saw how tired Hana looked. "You're going to collapse," Mira said one evening. She had brought dinner since Hana had forgotten to eat again. "You can't keep doing this alone." Hana sat down heavily on a stool. Her back ached and her feet hurt. "I know," she admitted. "But what else can I do? These families need this food. Their children need it. I can't just turn them away." Mira understood. That was one reason they were friends. They both cared deeply about helping others. "Have you thought about hiring help?" Mira asked. Hana laughed, but it was a tired sound. "With what money? I barely charge enough to cover costs. Most of these families don't have much money either." "I can't ask them to pay more." "Then we need another solution," Mira said firmly. The next day, Mira brought someone new to the bakery. His name was Kai. He was tall and serious-looking, with glasses that made him look smart. He worked as an administrator for the station, managing schedules and resources for various departments. "Mira told me about your situation," Kai said, looking around the crowded bakery. Several alien families waited in line, and Hana was rushing between the oven and the counter. "This is impressive work you're doing, but it's not sustainable." Hana felt defensive. "I'm managing fine." "No, you're not," Kai said, but his voice was kind, not mean. "And that's not a criticism. You're doing the work of 5 people. No one could manage this alone." He pulled out his data pad. "I've been looking at station regulations. There are community service grants available for projects that help multiple species. Your bakery qualifies." Hana stopped working and looked at him properly. "Grants? What do you mean?" Kai explained. The station government had funds set aside to help businesses that served the whole community, especially those that helped smaller or underrepresented species. If Hana applied, she could get money to expand her bakery, buy more equipment, and hire help. "But there's paperwork," Kai continued. "Lots of it. Applications, reports, budget projections. It's complicated. However, I can help you with that. It's what I do for work." Hana felt hope rise in her chest. "You would help me?" "Of course," Kai said simply. "What you're doing here matters. These families have been ignored for too long. If I can help make your work easier, that helps them too." Mira smiled. "See? There are solutions. You just need to accept help sometimes." Over the next week, Kai came to the bakery every evening after his work shift ended. He brought his data pad and helped Hana fill out forms. They calculated costs, projected growth, and wrote detailed explanations of what the bakery did. Kai was patient and thorough. He made the complicated process feel manageable. Meanwhile, the line of customers kept growing. Hana started keeping a list of names. She couldn't serve everyone who came, so she began taking orders for the next day. The list grew longer each morning. One evening, as Hana locked the door after another exhausting day, she counted the names on her list. Her eyes went wide. There were 200 families waiting. 200 families wanted her cookies. She sat down on the floor, still holding the list. She had started this to help one crying child. Now, hundreds of children depended on her. Mira found her there, sitting with her back against the door. "You okay?" she asked, sitting down beside her. Hana showed her the list. 200 families, Mira. How am I supposed to help 200 families?" Mira took her hand. "The same way you helped the first one. One cookie at a time. But you're not alone anymore. Kai and I are here. Others will help too. You'll see. Hana wanted to believe her friend. She looked at the list again, at all those names written in different alien scripts. Each name represented a child who needed food, a parent who worried. She thought about that first little Vrelian, crying because he was hungry. She had been able to help him. Maybe with help, she could help all of them. Okay, she said quietly. Let's try. The grant approval came through 2 weeks later. Kai arrived at the bakery early one morning, grinning widely. He waved his datapad at Hana, who was already covered in flour despite the early hour. We got it, he announced. Full approval. Enough funds to buy new equipment and hire 3 people. Hana should have felt happy. Instead, worry twisted in her stomach. That's wonderful, she said, but her voice sounded uncertain even to herself. Kai noticed. His smile faded. What's wrong? This is what we wanted. Hana set down her mixing bowl and wiped her hands on her apron. I know. It's just... I don't know how to explain it. What if hiring people changes everything? What if the cookies stop being special? What do you mean? Kai asked, moving closer. Hana struggled to put her feelings into words. Every batch I make, I think about the families who will eat them. I adjust each recipe personally. I know which cookies are for the Vrelian children who like extra sweetness, and which are for the Pixan families who prefer bland flavors. If other people make them, will they care as much? Will they understand how important each cookie is? Kai was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You're worried about losing the personal connection. Yes, Hana said, relieved he understood. These aren't just cookies. They're comfort. They're care. When parents pick up an order, I can see the relief on their faces. They trust me to keep their children safe. How can I teach someone else to care that much? Before Kai could answer, the door chimed. A Vrelian mother entered with her young daughter. The little one ran straight to Hana, making happy chirping sounds. Hana smiled and knelt down, pulling out a cookie she had saved specifically for this child. She knew this girl liked the ones with extra fruit pieces. The mother watched with warm eyes. You always remember her favorites? She said softly. Of course, Hana replied. I remember all the children. After they left, Kai spoke again. That's what you're afraid of losing. The ability to remember everyone, to make each family feel special. Hana nodded sadly. With 200 families, how can I possibly maintain that? Even with help, it feels impossible. The next few days were difficult. Hana knew she needed to hire people, but she kept putting it off. The waiting list continued growing. 200 became 220, then 250. Parents started calling to ask when their orders would be ready. Some had been waiting for weeks. Mira came by one afternoon and found Hana sitting in the back room, her head in her hands. The bakery was closed, even though it was the middle of the day. Hana? Mira said gently. What happened? I can't do it, Hana said, her voice breaking. I stayed up all night trying to fill orders, but I barely made a dent in the list. There are families who have been waiting for a month. A month, Mira. Their children are hungry and I'm failing them. Mira sat beside her friend. You're not failing anyone. You're one person trying to do the impossible. That's not failure. That's being human. But they need me, Hana whispered. They need the cookies, Mira corrected softly. And those cookies need you to make smart decisions. Hiring help isn't giving up. It's being practical. Hana looked at her friend. But what if the new people don't care? Then you teach them to care, Mira said simply. You're not giving up control. You're sharing your knowledge. There's a difference. That evening, Hana finally posted the job advertisement. She needed 3 people who could follow recipes exactly, who could learn about different species' dietary needs, and most importantly, who understood that this work was about more than just baking. It was about caring for families who had nowhere else to turn. Applications came in quickly. Hannah was surprised by how many people wanted to help. She spent 2 days reading through them all. Many applicants were human, but several aliens applied too. They wrote about their own struggles finding food on the station, or about their children who had benefited from Hannah's cookies. Hannah interviewed everyone carefully. She asked strange questions that had nothing to do with baking. She asked if they remembered their favorite meal as a child and why it mattered. She asked what they would do if a customer seemed sad. She asked if they could imagine what it felt like to be hungry in a place where nothing was safe to eat. Most people gave good answers, but 3 people gave exceptional ones. There was Bora, a young human woman who had grown up poor and remembered what it felt like to be hungry. There was Rin, a human man who had studied alien biology in school and loved learning about different species. And there was Yuna, a quiet woman who had worked in childcare and understood that children needed more than just food. They needed kindness too. Hannah hired all 3, but on their first day, she felt sick with worry. What if they didn't understand? What if they made mistakes? What if she had to fire them and disappoint them? She gathered them in the bakery before opening. "Thank you for being here," she started. Her hands twisted in her apron nervously. "I need to explain something important. These cookies might seem simple, but they're not. Every batch represents trust. Parents trust us to keep their children safe. Children trust us to give them something that won't make them sick." The 3 new workers listened carefully. Bora nodded. Rin took notes on his data pad. Yuna watched Hannah with understanding eyes. "I don't just want you to follow recipes," Hannah continued. "I want you to understand why each ingredient matters. I want you to think about the families while you work. Can you do that?" "Yes," they said together. Hannah spent the entire first week training them personally. She showed them each recipe, explaining the science behind the ingredient choices. She told them stories about the families, helping them understand who they were baking for. She taught them how to read alien biology data and adjust recipes accordingly. To her surprise, they learned quickly. Bora had steady hands and never wasted ingredients. Rin asked smart questions and started suggesting improvements to make the recipes even safer. Yuna moved quietly but efficiently, and she started decorating some cookies with natural food colors to make them more fun for children. By the end of the first week, they were producing 3 times as many cookies as Hannah had made alone. The waiting list started to shrink. 250 became 230, then 200. But Hannah still worried. She watched her workers constantly, checking every batch they made. She tasted everything to make sure it was right. She redid several batches that were perfectly fine, just because they didn't feel quite right to her. Kai noticed. He pulled her aside one afternoon. "You need to trust them," he said. "I do trust them," Hannah protested. "No, you don't," Kai said gently. "You hired them because they're good. Now let them be good. You can't check everything forever. You'll exhaust yourself again." Hannah knew he was right, but letting go was hard. That evening, she forced herself to step back. She let Bora handle a full order for a Pixen family without supervision. She watched from across the room, her hands clenched tight, but she didn't interfere. Bora measured everything carefully. She checked the species requirements twice. She packaged the cookies with care and wrote a little note for the family, just like Hannah always did. When the family came to pick up their order, they smiled just as warmly as they always had. The children were just as happy. Hannah felt something loosen in her chest. Maybe this could work. Maybe she didn't have to do everything alone. Maybe sharing this work didn't mean losing what made it special. 1 month after hiring her team, Hannah faced a new problem. The bakery was producing more cookies than ever before, but they still couldn't keep up with demand. The waiting list had stopped shrinking. It stayed at around 180 families, never getting smaller despite working from dawn until late evening. Rin identified the bottleneck one afternoon. It's the mixing, he said, showing Hana his notes. We can only mix dough for one species at a time because we have just 2 large bowls. While one batch bakes, we wait. While we mix, the oven sits empty. We're wasting time. Hana rubbed her tired eyes. We need more equipment, but we spent most of the grant money already. I don't know where we'd get funds for industrial mixers. Maybe we don't need industrial mixers, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. A young man stood there holding a toolbox. He was lean and wore clothes covered in oil stains. Sorry for interrupting, he said. I'm Tay. I'm an engineer in the station's maintenance department. I heard you folks were having equipment trouble. Hana was confused. How did you hear about that? We just figured it out ourselves. Tay smiled. My sister has twin daughters. They're Vrelian hybrids. Your cookies are the only sweets they can eat safely. She talks about this place all the time. Yesterday, she mentioned the wait times were getting longer again. I thought maybe I could help. He set down his toolbox and walked around the bakery, examining the equipment. He looked at the ovens, the mixing stations, the cooling racks. He made notes on his datapad and took measurements. Your workflow is inefficient, he said finally, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because this space wasn't designed for production baking. You need better organization and some custom tools. We don't have money for custom tools, Hana said apologetically. Tay waved his hand. I'm not asking for money. Your cookies helped my nieces. Let me pay you back this way. I can build things to make your work easier. It's what I do. Over the next week, Tay came to the bakery every evening after his shift ended. He brought scrap metal and spare parts from the maintenance department. He built a rotating rack system that held 6 mixing bowls at once, each on its own turntable. Now they could mix dough for 6 species at the same time. He created a conveyor system that moved cookies from the oven to the cooling racks automatically. This freed up Bora and Yuna to focus on packaging instead of standing by the oven waiting. He built custom measuring tools that made portion control faster and more accurate. The changes were dramatic. Production doubled within 2 weeks. The waiting list started shrinking again. 180 became 150. Then 120. But a different problem emerged. With so many species coming to the bakery, keeping track of all the different dietary requirements was becoming impossible. They had recipes written on paper, stored in data files, and memorized in their heads. Information was scattered and disorganized. One morning, disaster nearly struck. Rin had prepared a batch of cookies for a Krell family, but he accidentally used a recipe meant for Pixin. The ingredients were similar but not identical. Luckily, Hana caught the mistake before the cookies were delivered, but it scared everyone badly. We need a better system, Hana said during their evening meeting. We're working with almost 60 different species now. That's 60 different sets of dietary rules. We can't keep all that information in our heads. What we need is a database, Rin said. A proper one, where all the information is organized and searchable. We could include not just recipes, but warnings about dangerous ingredients, notes about preferences, everything. That sounds complicated, Yuna said quietly. It is, Rin admitted. I know basic programming, but building something this complex is beyond my skills. Tay, who had been installing a new timer system on the ovens, looked up. I might know someone who can help. There's a woman in the station's tech department, Day. She builds custom software. She owes me a favor. Day arrived the next day. She was small and quick-moving, with short hair and sharp eyes that took in everything. She listened as Hana explained what they needed. So you want a database that stores recipes, dietary requirements, allergen warnings, and preparation notes for 60 alien species, Day summarized. And it needs to be simple enough that anyone can use it, even during a busy rush. Exactly, Hana said. Is that possible? Day grinned. It's possible. It'll take me about 2 weeks. I'll need someone to help me input all the data, though. Rin volunteered immediately. He loved organizing information. For the next 2 weeks, he spent every spare moment working with Day. They sat in the back room with 3 data pads between them, coding and testing and adjusting. Meanwhile, word about the bakery had spread beyond just families with special dietary needs. Other humans on the station started talking about what Hana was doing. They saw how she and her small team were helping hundreds of alien families who had been overlooked by everyone else. Volunteers started showing up. A retired teacher named Jin offered to help with packaging on weekends. 2 students, Hyo and Nari, came after their classes to clean and organize. A shipping clerk named Dami volunteered her truck to help deliver large orders to families in distant sectors of the station. Hana was overwhelmed by the support. She had started this alone, thinking she would always work alone. Now she had a team of employees, volunteers, and friends. The bakery had become more than just her project. It had become a community effort. When Day finished the database, she gathered everyone to demonstrate it. The interface was clean and simple. You selected a species from the drop-down menu, and all their dietary information appeared. Safe ingredients were listed in green, dangerous ones in red. Recipes were stored with step-by-step instructions and photos. There's also a family profile section, Day explained. If you learn that a specific child prefers less sweetness or a certain texture, you can add notes to their family's profile. Next time they order, you'll see those notes automatically. Hana stared at the screen. This was exactly what she had worried about losing when she hired help. The personal touch, the ability to remember each family's preferences. Now they had a system that let everyone provide that personal care. "This is perfect," she whispered. "There's one more thing," Day said. She clicked a few buttons, and a new screen appeared. "I added a feature for other bakers. If anyone on the station wants to make these special cookies, they can download the database. The recipes are all here, free to use. You can't keep up with demand alone, but maybe if other bakers start making these too, more families will be helped." Hana felt tears in her eyes. "You want to share everything? For free?" "Knowledge should be shared," Day said simply, "especially knowledge that helps people. You started this to help one hungry child. Imagine if bakers all over the station could help hungry children. That's better, isn't it?" Hana thought about it. Part of her wanted to keep the recipes secret, to make her bakery special. But a bigger part of her remembered why she had started this. It wasn't about being special. It wasn't about fame or success. It was about making sure no child went hungry when she had the power to help. "Yes," she said finally. "Share it. Share everything." That night, Day uploaded the database to the station's public network. By morning, 5 other bakeries had downloaded it. By the end of the week, 15 bakers across Harmony Point were making special cookies for alien families. The waiting list at Hana's bakery shrank rapidly as families found new places to get safe food for their children. Some people told Hana she had made a mistake. She had given away her advantage. Other bakeries would steal her customers. But Hana didn't care about that. When she walked through the marketplace now, she saw alien children eating cookies from different shops. She saw parents who looked relieved instead of worried. She saw families who could finally enjoy a simple treat together. That was worth more than any advantage. 6 months after the database went public, Harmony Point looked different. 18 bakeries now made special cookies for alien families. The marketplace had new signs advertising food safe for Vrelians, Pixen, Krell, and dozens of other species. Parents no longer looked worried when they walked through the shopping areas. Children of all species ran through the corridors, happy and well-fed. Hana's bakery had changed too. The waiting list was gone completely. Any family could walk in and get cookies the same day. The small shop that had once been cramped and chaotic was now organized and calm. Her team worked together smoothly, each person knowing their role perfectly. But something unexpected was happening. Alien families kept coming to Hana's bakery, even though other shops were closer or cheaper. They came because they felt something special here. They came because this was where it all started. One afternoon, a Vrelian grandmother came in with her 3 grandchildren. Hana recognized her. She had been one of the first customers after the little crying cub. The grandmother looked around the bakery with warm eyes. "I remember when you made cookies for my grandson in your old kitchen," she said. "You were alone then. Just one human trying to help. Look at what you've built." Hana smiled. "I didn't build this alone. So many people helped." "Yes," the grandmother agreed, "but you started it. You showed everyone that someone cared about families like ours. That mattered more than the cookies themselves." After she left, Hana thought about those words. The cookies had always been important, but maybe they were never really about the cookies. Maybe they were about showing kindness to those who felt forgotten. Maybe they were about building bridges between species who barely knew each other. That evening, Kai came to the bakery with news. "The station council wants to meet with you," he said. "They have a proposal." Hana felt nervous. "What kind of proposal?" "They want to expand this place," Kai explained. "Turn it into something bigger, a cultural center where different species can share food and traditions. They're offering funding and a larger space." Hana didn't know what to say. "Why would they do that?" "Because of what you've accomplished," Kai said. "You've done more to bring this station's communities together than any official program. The council wants to support that." The next week, Hana met with the station council. They sat in a formal meeting room, 5 council members from different species. The head counselor was a tall alien with silver skin and 4 arms. She spoke in a deep, resonant voice. "Ms. Hana, your bakery has become a symbol on this station. It represents what we strive for, different species living together, helping each other, sharing resources. We want to help you expand that vision." They showed Hana plans for a new building. It would have a large kitchen, multiple dining areas, and spaces where different species could teach others about their food and culture. There would be cooking classes, cultural events, and community gatherings. "We're not asking you to change what you do," the counselor continued. "We're asking you to do more of it, to create a space where food brings people together across all barriers." Hana looked at the plans. It was more than she had ever imagined. "This would help so many people," she whispered. "Will you do it?" the counselor asked. Hana thought about the crying Vrelian cub who had started everything. She thought about all the families she had helped since then. She thought about how one small act of kindness had grown into something much larger. "Yes," she said, "I'll do it." Construction took 4 months. During that time, the whole station seemed excited. People stopped by the old bakery to ask when the new center would open. Volunteers offered to help with everything from painting walls to planning events. The project had captured everyone's imagination. Tay led the construction, designing custom equipment for the new kitchen. Day created an expanded database that included not just recipes, but cultural information about food traditions from hundreds of species. Mira organized a team of volunteers to help run events. Kai handled all the administrative work and permits. Hana's original team expanded. Bora, Rin, and Yuna each took on leadership roles, training new workers and helping design programs. Jin started planning cooking classes for children. The students, Hyo and Nari, created a newsletter to share stories about different species and their food cultures. The opening day arrived on a clear morning. The new cultural center was beautiful. It had large windows that let in natural light, kitchens equipped for any type of cooking, and dining spaces decorated with art from dozens of worlds. A banner hung above the entrance. Hana's Cultural Kitchen, where every species is welcome. Hundreds of people attended the opening ceremony. Humans and aliens stood together, waiting to see inside. The first Vrelian family, the father and his son who had started it all, stood at the front of the crowd. The son was bigger now, no longer a small cub, but he still remembered. "You gave me cookies when I was crying and hungry," he said to Hana. "You were a stranger, but you helped me. You taught me that kindness exists between species." Hana knelt down to his level. "You taught me something too. You taught me that one small act can start something beautiful." The doors opened and people flooded inside. They explored the kitchens, examined the cultural displays, and signed up for classes and events. In the main dining area, long tables were set up with food from dozens of worlds. Each dish was labeled with ingredients and safe species tags. Everyone could find something they could eat safely. Hana watched as humans sat with Vrelians, sharing meals and stories. She saw Pixin children teaching human children a traditional game. She saw elderly aliens explaining their cooking traditions to fascinated younger generations. The room was loud with conversation in dozens of languages, but underneath the noise was something else. It was the sound of community forming. Over the following months, the cultural center became the heart of Harmony Point. Cooking classes filled up within minutes of being announced. Cultural celebration days attracted thousands. The database expanded to include over 200 species, with contributions from all over the galaxy. Other stations started contacting Hana, asking how they could create similar centers in their communities. One evening, after an especially busy day, Hana sat in the quiet kitchen. Mira found her there, sitting in the same way she had sat in her old bakery many months ago. "Tired?" Mira asked, sitting beside her. "Happy," Hana corrected. "I was just thinking about how this all started. One bag of cookies for one hungry child. I never imagined it would become this." "That's how change always starts," Mira said. "One person seeing a problem and deciding to do something about it. You saw a hungry child and made cookies. Then you saw more hungry children and kept making cookies. Then you saw a whole community that needed help. And you helped them. You never planned to change the station. You just kept doing the next kind thing." Hana smiled. "The next kind thing. I like that." The door opened and the evening volunteer team arrived. They called out greetings, chattering about the next day's events. There was a Krell cultural dinner to prepare, a children's baking class to set up, and a meeting with ambassadors from 3 nearby stations who wanted to learn about the center. Hana stood up, ready to work. There was always more to do, more people to help, more bridges to build. But she wasn't alone anymore. She had a team, a community, and a vision that others shared. The cultural center's motto was painted on the kitchen wall where everyone could see it. It started with 1 cookie and 1 cub. Now we feed thousands. But every meal still begins with caring about one person. Years later, historians would study what happened on Harmony Point. They would write papers about how one human baker changed interspecies relations. They would analyze the social and economic impacts of her cultural center. They would create complex theories about human nature and cross-species cooperation. But for Hana, it was always simple. She had seen a child crying from hunger, and she had made cookies. Everything else that followed was just more of the same, seeing people who needed help and doing what she could to help them. It was not complicated. It was not theoretical. It was just kindness, repeated over and over until it built something lasting. And somewhere on the station, Vrelian parents still told their children the story of the human baker who made the first cookies. They told how she had cared enough to learn what their species could eat, how she had worked until her hands ached to feed hungry children, how she had given away her recipes so others could help too. They told the story not just because it was history, but because it was a reminder of what was possible when someone chose kindness over indifference. The story ended where it began, with simple human compassion and cookies made with care.